Joining us now, an old friend of the show, Sharyl Attkisson, the host of Full Measure, which airs Sunday mornings on Sinclair television stations, and author of the upcoming book, The Smear. So for a year and a half, you were among the few voices that were saying, don't underestimate Donald Trump, don't write him off, don't minimize his appeal. Now you have lots of journalists coming out saying, boy, we got it wrong, we blew it.
I think part of that is because I'm not a political insider. I wasn't looking at the polls for my results and predictions. I was listening to ordinary people, listening to anecdotes, traveling the country, and asking my friends, liberals, conservatives, and those who are in between. And it was pretty clear to me, as I predicted, that Trump would win or would likely win.
Yeah. Well, do you think there's kind of a groupthink that sets in a situation like this, where everyone the journalists know is against Trump, everyone on their Twitter feed is mocking Trump, perhaps in many cases reinforced by their own personal biases that this guy who never held political office was not fit for the White House?
Absolutely. You put your finger on it. And I think that in the big picture, to me, the media has allowed itself, we've allowed ourselves to be infiltrated by political operatives, meaning we hire them, we welcome them into our newsroom, they work, ideological people work in the news department, they shape coverage, they work as managers, and that's one reason why I think you had a whole rash of news outlets actually trying to overtly, and admit they were doing this, convince people who to vote for, rather than just bring the facts and report on the campaign.
But don't you think that viewers on all the networks who see these political commentators, many of them, 2 days removed from the previous campaign on the right or the left, know that these are partisans and don't view them, or do they now view them as kind of like, we're all a bunch of insiders, whether you grew up in journalism or you grew up in politics?
I think they see everybody as sort of the insiders. There is a market for that. I mean, clearly some people want to hear that sort of coverage as was given in the campaign. But someone tweeted to me, there are more of us who think for ourselves than there are of you trying to tell us what to think. And I think that kind of sums it up.
Sharyl, I watched in amazement as editors, journalists, even the New York Times media columnists said that Trump is such a different, such a dangerous character in their view, or potentially dangerous, that we have to suspend our usual standards and cover him differently, more aggressively than Hillary Clinton, who's, a career politician, former cabinet member. And then you see this USA Today poll by nearly 10-1. People said the media wanted Hillary Clinton to win, and that included 3/4 of Clinton supporters, so people are getting it.
Yeah, and because they admitted it, I think there's always been a subtext or belief that the media is in on it sometimes, but they really came out, USA Today, for the first time in their 34-year history, saying that they were going to weigh in on a presidential campaign, don't vote for Trump. The New York Times behavior, which I think was particularly remarkable, according to my information, they had a lot of information about stories they could have done on Hillary Clinton that in a neutral sense a news organization would have done, and yet they made the decision to hold or withhold those stories. Things like that have really cut into what credibility we in the media had.
And speaking of that, I mean, given this embarrassing performance, and there's really no other word for it, do you think the press will learn some lessons for the future, particularly when it comes to sort of getting out of the New York-Washington bubble?
Not really. I think that
You're not optimistic.
No. The same people who made these decisions, which I think in many instances were particularly bad and egregious decisions from a journalistic standpoint, cannot be relied upon either to fix their own problems or to correctly and accurately predict and report on things in the future. This is a huge problem.
Do you think part of it is sort of a cultural or social pressure where to sort of break from the pack? I mean, especially when you have people with maps and data and polls saying, well, there's no way Donald Trump's going to win, and he's ticked off all these groups and he lost all the debates, that to then come out and say, no, I think Donald Trump, and there were a few who did it, has a chance to win, and here's why. Do you think there's that kind of pressure?
Absolutely. And if you're someone, and a lot of people in the press, believe it or not, are group thinkers, and they are in that crowd mentality, and if that's you, you're not going to be comfortable in position providing another analysis. You and I are not like that. We talked about this, the pressure you feel. When you simply report as a fact what you think you see, it's not your personal opinion of what you want to have happen, but it's treated like that. Oh, well, now you're biased because you're off the page, you're off the narrative, you're different than us. I don't mind being different than other people, but I think a lot of people are uncomfortable in that position.
It's not always easy. Sharyl Attkisson, great to see you.
Thanks.
Look forward to your book.